with you in just one moment.
Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam. We'll be getting started in just one moment. That's awesome. We got a guest coming in from India right now.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Yes, alhamdulillah.
Yeah, I am Abu Bakr from India.
Alhamdulillah.
First time joining with you, and
Right.
I had a call with Mr. Benjamin
Okay.
1 hour back, and he told me to join this meeting, and you gave me the link also. And very
Okay.
kind of you. Thank you very much.
Okay,
Hope to see.
alhamdulillah. All right. Well, alhamdulillah, we are ready to rock and roll. We're here in the ATL, better known to some as Atlanta. And more specifically, right here in College Hill at Masjid Al Bayina, who's hosting our program and our visit today. Instructor Benjamin Bilal will be with you very soon, but we have a special guest. This is William Safir, and executive senior instructor, and we have been blessed to have a very exciting and very successful strong end, as we call it. We don't like to identify our time as week and weekend. So this strong end here in the ATL, we're certainly enjoying the presence of our beloved international instructor, Benjamin Bilal. And we have joining us, again, guests from all parts of the world. And we have a special, not really a stranger, matter of fact, it's my sister, Miss Sandy Rodgers. She's actually a radio personality, has been so for years. And more recently, she's taken her first initial flight, if you will, in the TV arena. And she might tell you a little bit about that, but she has her own TV show, the Sandy Rodgers Show. And we're excited about that, where she's sharing what she's been blessed with. And so, without further ado, Sandy and I, we've been serving the community since, she was 10 and I was 12. So we go way back, not only as blood brothers and sisters, but also in this work of serving humanity. And it has followed us all of our lives, So Sandy is one that has spent a lot of time looking at the fitra, the natural creation, and the value of incorporating that into your life. And she's what we could be identified as a wellness expert. She has brought herself back from many health conditions, and she's been successful at becoming a master gardener, a nutritionist, and she's done so many things. She's reached out and helped a lot of underdeserved groups of people that are often not given any attention or the help that they need. But without further ado, Sandy Rodgers, why don't you welcome to NuNetics Broadcasting Network and to the University Online course. And today it's NuNetics class. So I'll share a few words with you.
Assalamu alaikum. Greetings, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here today. And I'm laughing because I'm sitting between two incredible men. My older brother, Imam William Safir, and my awesome new brother, international guru and educator, instructor Benjamin Bilal. And it's just a pleasure to be here. So I've been asked to come and just share a few words with you. It's really comforting and reassuring to be in this space with you because I too am doing a work that is going around the world in seeking and understanding a better acknowledgement of who we are. And in doing that, we must unlearn some of the things that we've learned and accepted as our truth, in how we've lived our lives. So in that process, it is, again, such an honor to share the platform today with Brother Benjamin Bilal, because he's doing the same thing. He's teaching us about the words and how they impact and affect our lives. So the same way that the foods that we eat, the thoughts that we have, and those traumas that we leave unresolved, those are also major, major areas for us to consider as we're seeking an holistic approach to life and living. I am the author of several books, and my most helpful book is my latest, and it's called The A's Habit: Abandonment, Abortion, Addiction. And in that handbook, which I was really a little timid about publicizing even after writing it, was the amount of people that are healing, the amount of people that are finding strength and courage in the dialogue in the book to go into their own lives, to go back and find those things where perhaps the parents weren't around and they felt abandoned, or they didn't have parents in the home, period. Perhaps, adopted or something like that, and they felt abandoned, aborting their dreams and their desires of life and going after what they really wanted and just settled for whatever came along. There was a time when we were not taught to go for our dreams. We were taught to work at one place, be a very faithful employee, and get that retirement money and the retirement watch and all of like that, right? But now in this day, we're waking up. We're waking up to know that the skills, the knowledge, the abilities that we've been gifted with is to share with the world. And so in that way, the unlearning those lessons or those habits and beliefs is vitally important for our freedom, for our acceptance that we can make a difference, and to make it in a very liberating way. We don't need to concern ourselves with if other people are going to accept what we have to say. We're making it up for ourselves. We're creating our world. Our world. So with that, others don't get a chance, don't have a right, don't have a say in how we do this. So again, that is one of the reasons why I am so happy to be here and feel so honored that Instructor Bilal invited me to open up the session today. So my radio show, the Sandy Rodgers Show, we're talking about real subjects that truly, truly impact our lives, our families, our communities, and it's raw from the state. And we're not trying to pretty it up. If it's ugly, it's ugly. If it's stank, it's stank. And we're going to talk about it from that perspective with people that have real life stories to come and share with us. And it's relatable, because if it doesn't pertain to you personally, then somebody in your family got that story. So we'll be on Blackondemand Network, and hopefully we will be starting up by the end of the month. But go on Blackondemand. You can find it on Roku, Fire Stick, and Amazon TV. And thank you again, Brother Bilal, for inviting me to join your platform today. I really, truly appreciate it. Yeah.
And we want to thank Sandy. Now she's again, we're about almost 2 years apart, but I often say, we're like almost twins. We work so closely together. And we've just been fortunate, to really be our brother and sister, and we've supported each other through our ups and our downs, and raising our families, and going through illnesses and deaths of the family, and all that goes along with just being family. And so we've been mutually supportive of our successes, and we've been comforting each other in our losses. But so it's a blessing to have a sister out in this battlefield, on the front line with you, and not taking her femininity as an excuse to sit on the sidelines like some do. So thank you, Sandy, and I appreciate you, love you. And I think we're ready now for international instructor Benjamin Bilal. He has something special in store for us, I'm sure.
Indeed. Thank you. All right. Let's give just one more round of applause for Sandy. Sandy Rodgers. And all of the information that you need pertaining to what she was telling you about will be at the end of the video once I process it. So if you didn't get a chance to write it down, don't worry about it. It'll be forthcoming. And thank you.
Yes,
I wish we could get a nice little shot of this audience. This is wonderful. This is great. So we're here live.
sir.
As William mentioned, we have people from several parts of the world, actually. Yeah. Pakistan and Bermuda and different places around the world, around the country and around the world, the country for sure, but around the world. And we're just very happy to be here in Atlanta, GA.
Sir, I am here
What is this,
from
the third
India.
time? Fourth time? Third or fourth, yeah. We're being hosted by Masjid Al-Bayina, which is under the leadership of Imam Kareem Rahim. I always get them backward. Am I saying it correct? Okay. Rahim, Kareem Rahim. Listen, they're both good names, so it doesn't matter which way you place them, right? Yeah. And we're actually visiting you today based on my journey here to Atlanta from North Carolina to actually get a chance to sit in once again, I think for the third time, on the regular Sunday NuNetics class that is hosted by the Imam and the students here. We call them learners. In this particular masjid, again, it's a Masjid Al-Bayina, and the address will be at the end of this video also once it's edited. So if you're ever in this area, in the Atlanta area, and it's on a Sunday, oh man, you're welcome to come by. What time did we get started here? 2 o'clock? Yeah, 2 o'clock every Sunday, rain or shine. Instructor Bilal or no Instructor Bilal, you don't run this class. Your imam here had the idea to begin this class, and it's been going strong and growing strong for several months now, at least for several months. A lot of other superstars sitting in this audience, and we won't get a chance to introduce them directly because of the time limits that are on us today, and I want to get right into what it is I need to say. Hopefully I'm loud and clear to the audience outside of this room. And we're going to ask that you keep your microphones muted so that nothing else bleeds out into the conversation. So on your own, simply mute your phones and keep them muted. Inshallah, if we have enough time, we'll entertain questions first from the live audience, the dedicated people who come here every Sunday. And if you're new here, we pray that you will continue to come every Sunday. This is your home. This is open to you. This is free of charge. Sometimes you even get a bottle of water. But even if you didn't get a bottle of water, you're getting a lot of moral and spiritual water when you come here. Whenever you visit any place where we're teaching this particular message, because we consider it to be that which will help keep your life clean and satiated. So in case you don't know me and you're out in cyberland, I'm Instructor Benjamin Bilal. I'm the inventor of this particular method of learning that's called the NuNetics method, the NuNetics method. And we're going to talk a little bit about what that entails. And I'm going to bring up my notes and get this linguistic party started. One moment. Okay. Am I being seen up here on the screen? I think I am. Okay. All right. So welcome to the Sunday NuNetics class. I mentioned the resident imam here as Kareem Rahim. This is Sunday, October 8th, 2023. And we're here at Masjid Al-Bayina, 3274 East Main Street, College Park. So if you're on your way here, do not go to West Main Street. You'll be way off. Make sure you include that little E in your GPS address, okay? And we're going to be talking today a little bit about a subject that I thought about last night, came to me, called the newness of NuNetics. people always ask, what is that you're teaching over there? Is it science? What do they call it? Uh, I forget the other name the Scientology people have for their thing. Cybernetics. They have something ethics. You know, everybody's got an ethics on the end of their title. Dianetics. Yeah, this is not Dianetics. Okay, has nothing to do with Dianetics. This has to do with NuNetics, and this word NuNetics is actually coined from an Arabic letter that if you're speaking Arabic or you've learned Arabic, you know about the letter Nun. Nun. Some people spell it N-U-N for phonetic reasons, purposes of proper pronunciation. I usually spell it N-O-O-N if it's separate. And that letter Nun in Arabic is the equivalent of the English letter N. So it's used in the Arabic language pretty much the same way that we use the letter N in the English language. What needs to be differentiated is what these letters mean. And most people who study language are not aware that each and every letter has its own separate meaning. So when we were in elementary school learning the English language, they taught us our ABCs. And we sat there in the classroom repeating after the teacher, A, B, C, D, you know the song. But none of those teachers ever said, stop. Let me tell you this first. A has a meaning. B has a meaning. See, this is how this new world of learning letters is going to approach the alphabet system. No longer is it going to be just listen to these sounds and repeat after me. It's going to be listen to these sounds and let me tell you what each one means. Because if you don't know what each sound means, you're never, ever going to know why the word means what it means in Arabic or in English. So if you go on to learn Arabic, they teach you the same way. They teach you by Arabic root words. So that's already 2 or 3 letters put together. But why does Iman, the word for faith and trust, why doesn't it mean doorstop? Why doesn't it mean the head on your body? Why is a different word used for the head on your body that you use for the word for faith and trust? Who decided that is the main question. As they would say in the world of detectives, who done it? We want to know who done it. Because whoever done it, they actually have the jump on us. Because they know not only the root letters, but they can tell you where those roots got their beginnings as seeds. I want you to think about Mother Nature. There's no root on earth that will ever appear unless you first have seeds to produce those roots. So if we have root words, and in languages, they tell us we have root words. All languages tell you we have root words, but no languages tell you that we have seed letters. So Arabic has seed letters, and not even the Arabs know that. They used to know that. Several languages that I could name used to know that languages begin with seeds. The ancient philosophers understood that the entire universe began as a seed. All you have to do when you get a chance is Google cosmic seeds and watch what pops up. All right? Because everything out here in its beginnings represents seed, a seed foundation, a seed basis. Now, what is a seed? Very quickly. A seed is that life form to be. And I say to be because a seed is considered by science to be a dead object, not a living object. It's not a living object until what's inside of the seed manifests itself and begins to move and groove and grow. That's when it becomes a living entity. But before that, it's dead. So all of these letters right now are just dead things until you recognize what's called ideation. These are big words. Don't be scared of big words. They're just a combination of small words. I don't care how big the word, you can just chop it down and bring it right back to its beginnings. So ideation has a smaller word hiding within it called idea. That's all a seed is. Whenever you come up with an idea, for an invention or for a poem or for a lyric or for dance move or something. You come up with that idea. That idea exists first as a seed idea in your mind. So the mind is producing seeds. And the mind then needs to nourish those seeds so that the idea that is inside of the seed can become produced or productive and grow. Is this making sense to everyone? Okay. All right. So the human mind and the human soul operate exactly the same way. Now, here's where your eyes are going to be better tools for you than even your, pardon me, your ears are actually going to be better tools for you than your eyes when you study NuNetics. Because NuNetics is dealing with what are called phonemes. Has anyone ever heard that word? Yes. Yeah, phonemes. I know you've heard of phonics because they tried to get us all hooked on phonics back in the 70s or 80s or 80s. Hooked on the phonics. Everybody was hooked on phonics. Not realizing that that was a term that they were using for drug people who are hooked on drugs. You don't want to be hooked. That's a term that they use for going fishing. And you fish in the waters, don't you? Well, people who wanted to fish in the waters of what Imam W.D. Muhammad called the waters of your sensitivities. In other words, they were fishing around in your emotions, looking for something to snatch for their dinner table. That's what the hook was used. You've heard of Captain Hook. He's not a nice guy. So don't be hooked on phonics. Just study phonics. And phonics, related to the word phoneme, is simply a fancy dancy word for sound. That's all a phoneme is. It's an individual sound. So when you say A, that's a phoneme. Any sound is a phoneme. Okay? Now, you might say, well, why is that sort of dastardly or negative? It's negative in the way that it's used. If I get a phone call, you hear the word phone, you immediately see the connection to phoneme and phonics, but also to phony. Phoney, phony. So how did phone and phonics and phoneme and phone all come to occupy the same basic letters? Because when you speak to someone on your phone, and if you can remember having your child or your grandchild next to you when they were maybe 3 years old, 4 years old, I know it happened for me at that age. When the phone would ring, I'd run to hear who it was my mother was talking to. And I heard a voice in the phone. And I thought there was a little person in the phone. But that's phony. There's no person in there. I thought the same thing when I used to listen to the radio before we started watching television, meaning before we could afford it. It's not that it wasn't here when I got here. But my mom wasn't big into it. She was into gathering us around the radio to hear those different channels, and they had radio actors and programs and soap operas. Everything was coming through the radio. My little mind thought that there were people in the radio. And that's common for young people to think, oh, who's that in the radio? I used to wonder how a song could be played by this little tiny band and singing group the same way every single time. That's exactly the way I heard it the last time they sang it. These are professionals. You know, this is my little mind speaking, 4 years old, 5 years old, until I learned the technology. So technology is what actually graduated me out of believing that there were little people in the phone and in the radio, all that phony stuff, right? And graduated me to understand that the technology was what was bringing this into the house as visuals and audio. Make sense to everybody, right? So the phonemes were invented by a group of people in history called the Phoenicians. Have you ever heard of them? Okay, so I'm giving you some homework study. The Phoenicians, they also called the Canaanites. Just keep that in mind as a reference. When the Bible speaks about the land of Canaan, or Canaan, it's also talking about the Canaanites as the Phoenicians. They weren't called the Phoenicians The ancient Greeks gave them the name Phoenician. They never called themselves Phoenicians. The Greeks called them Phoenicians once the Greeks discovered that they were giving phony meanings for words. Now, what words were they giving phony meanings for? The words that the Phoenicians were being taught by the ancient Egyptians, called the Cometians, the people of ancient Kemet. Follow this line of logic to its logical conclusion. So the Phoenicians went into ancient Egypt trying to discover what all of that stuff was on the walls of ancient Egypt. We call them hieroglyphs now, right? And they would ask the ancient Egyptians, they came to be called the Egyptians. That's also a Greek name. We'll talk about that some other time, right? Egypt really is a code word also. It means a lot of things, but it also means E in Egypt is referring to the eye that goes out in search of. And the information that it brings back when it's time to teach other people outside of themselves what that information actually is, they gyp them. That's what you understand. So these people that they're calling ancient Egyptians were doing something that the Phoenicians peeped. And the Phoenicians said, well, they're gypping us out of the real meanings of these hieroglyphs. We're going to develop our own words and gyp the rest of the world out of the true meanings. We'll hold on to the real meanings. So we'll always know what life actually is, but we're going to insert certain ideas into these words so that these people that we teach in other parts of the world will gradually begin to think and act in the manner that we choose. So it was the most sophisticated manner of behavioral modification to take place about 5,000 to 7,000 years ago, beginning in ancient Egypt, with the manipulation of language. Language. This is all about language. And the word language produced the word languish. And the word languish means to become weak. So they made the whole world weak based on what they taught them concerning words and what words mean. And there's no better people on planet Earth to prove that than the so-called African-American, Negro, colored people. We don't even know what to call ourselves anymore. Right. Alien, Negro, nigger. We don't know what to call ourselves because they have systematically attacked us through language by saying, this is what you are and this is what that means. They call you Negro. You thought that was a good thing. You got the United Negro College Fund, still in existence. I don't know why they haven't changed that yet. All right. But all words are codes, C-O-D-E-S. Keep that in mind. Every word you will ever learn was created by a human brain. These words are not created by Allah. You think they are. Not even Quranic words are created by Allah per se. They are codes that register in the mind of human beings, and human beings put them together rationally based on what they think makes sense. And then they present it to you. So when Allah has to speak to you, he's got to speak to you through the codes that you already recognize and accept. Not that Allah speaks Arabic. Are you kidding? I've had people tell me that. Well, Allah has said, if you don't read it in Arabic, brother, it's no good. It's Allah, that's his language. Falukatul Arabiya. Yeah, but if you understood what Arabic meant, when you strip away the code, you'll know that it's not talking about the tongue of the ethnic Arab. It's talking about the speech of creation itself. How Allah speaks to you. It's a deep finding, isn't it? And Allah gave it to a so-called Negro. He gave it to Imam Muhammad when he told us that words make people. He gave it to Imam Muhammad when he said that man means mind, not this body, not male. Man means mind. So Imam Muhammad began his career in 1975, stripping away the falsehoods of the fake, phony, fictitious Phoenicians and presenting us with what we now call fitra-based language. And fitra is just an Arabic, Quranic Arabic word for nature. He took us back to our mama, Mother Nature. All right. Y'all enjoying yourselves?
Oh, yeah.
All right. So we're talking about the newness of NuNetics. Based on the Arabic letter Nun, which means seed, it means several things. It means breath. The letter Nun means breath. The letter Nun also means fish. There's a surah in the Quran called Nun, and it's talking about a big fish. Swallowed a particular guy. Eunice, Jonah. You understand? Yeah. So it means several things, but all of them are interrelated in terms of their meanings. We don't have time to go to through the details of that today. Just suffice it to say that that's your homework. Ask questions about that if you want to know more. Now, NuNetics is the means of identifying nature-based meanings of letters. Why is that so important, Instructor Benjamin Bilal guy? Because all new ideas come out of nature. Your first teacher was not your mother. Your first teacher was not Miss Sanderstein or whatever in first grade or kindergarten of your grade school. That was not your first teacher. A human being's primary teacher, first teacher, is always Mother Nature. You couldn't learn who your mother was, except that your mother is a product of Mother Nature also. She got here through Mother Nature. So even if you learned something from your mama or your daddy or your sibling, whoever you learned it from, your teacher, your neighbor, whoever you learned it from, your best friend, you're still learning it because Allah produced those things through the fitra, through Mother Nature. And it took your 5 basic senses to be able to latch on to each one of those things that you saw, that you heard, that you smelled, that you tasted, that you touched. And they began to register ideas. See that ideation that the seed contains? They registered ideas. Now, once you get that seed and that seed contains that very important ideation, my goodness, my gracious, my goodness, goodness gracious. My mother used to love to say that. Goodness gracious. And she said if you did something good or not so good. Oh man, you got a good report card this time, Ben. Goodness gracious. Like there's no stopping you. But if I got a bad report card, goodness gracious. Didn't I teach you better than that? Weren't you paying attention? See? So ideation is clocked into the DNA fabric of each and every seed, and only Allah can do that. Your mama can't do it, your daddy can't do it, your teacher can't do it, your professor, your guru, your imam, your mufti, your sheikh, your shaker, nobody else can do it but Allah. Clock that potential into the seed, but it's dormant. What does dormant mean? Anybody raise your hand and tell me. Yes. Me? Yeah. Somebody got another word for dormant? Resting. Ezekiel?
Undeveloped.
Undeveloped. It's dormant. Some people might just use the word dead.
Yeah.
It ain't moving. It's experiencing what's called inertia. It's asleep. Right? Our sister Brittany, she's absolutely correct. It's resting, it's asleep, it's dormant, it's inactive. You can use any of those words. That's what the ideation is in the seed when it's presented to you for the first time. When you go buy that pumpkin seed, you throw it in your mouth, you suck off the salt like I used to do. You crack it open, you spit the hull out, the shell, and then you eat the seed inside, right? Yeah, and we thought that's what seeds were for. We take an apple, we'd eat the apple, we take the apple seeds. Most of us who are from the city who don't know how to respect seeds, we just spit it out. If your grandma from the South saw you spitting that seed out, she'd pop you in your lips. Boy, you're supposed to be saving those seeds. I can be planting those seeds in my garden, in my yard. So people who are more attached to the earth, to Mother Nature, they have a better appreciation for nature, for the seed. You have a whole world now that likes to have new fruits come with no seeds. And we think that's a fantastic thing, that we can eat that watermelon now, not have to worry about spitting out all those little black seeds. Yeah, but at the end of the day, when you're hungry all over again, you have to go back to the people who sold you the first one with no seeds in order to reproduce it. Whereas if you had the seeds, you could have planted them for yourself. Making sense? Yeah. We're talking NuNetics now. the nature of what seeds do. Seeds are the most productive thing that has ever been created by Allah. The most productive. You can't get a living form. And according to this new science of cosmic seeds and creating planets and all of that, you can't get an inanimate form without some form of seed. Some kind of seed has to be present. And the ideation, the idea that's going to grow to be what you're looking for in the future from that thing. I want an apple tree. I'm going to plant an apple seed. I want a watermelon patch. I got to plant a watermelon seed. Lemons, oranges, no matter what it is, vegetation, lettuce, whatever it is. I need the seeds first. Now, if you're going to get your seeds from somebody else, you're still dependent, aren't you? Because again, when you run out, or when they refuse to sell you any more of the whatever that is you went to the store to get your roots and other stuff from, and you don't know how to identify what seed is good for what, they just all look like seeds to you, then it's going to be the person who has the knowledge what those things contain that are going to be your boss. They will eventually decide whether you eat or not. Because most of us didn't have the sense to say, let me see how I can do this for myself. Just in the event of. And I'm telling you that just in the event of time is right around the corner from us. You eating nice now, but I'm telling you, they got some stuff on their table. These evil social conspirators that I always talk about, they got some stuff on their agenda that includes you not being able to eat when you want to eat, and not being able to eat what you want to eat, and not being able to eat what you were used to eating. They got a plan for you to have bugs for dinner now, insects. Oh, the protein quality is great in these cockroaches. Mm. And because we're too busy playing Game Boy and all that other stuff and on the computer and in front of the iPad looking at whoever in Hollywood did whatever to somebody else in Hollywood, we're too busy paying attention to that, while simultaneously on a different channel, at the same time, they're talking at the World Economic Forum about the future of our lives and how they're going to be regulating society day in and day out above our heads without our permission. So the influence of that new day is already in the world. It's already operating through this current government and previous governments. It's not a new thing, but it's operating to become the de facto dictator over human life, period, so that the human being has no more freedom of choice. It is what it is. You like it or you lump it, where you going if you don't stay with me? So that's a serious topic. That's why I say NuNetics is not just dealing with letters. NuNetics is really dealing with the saving of human life. When you understand these connections, let's move on. Give me one moment. I like to draw on my board for some reason. I don't think they're children. That's scary. All right. So, continuing. NuNetics is the means of identifying nature-based meanings of letters or four letters. Every letter has its origins in nature, especially the Quranic Arabic letters and language. And I say especially because outside of the language that was revealed for purposes of us understanding and receiving the Quran, all other languages have been systematically contaminated, purposely, by people like the ancient Phoenicians, purposely misconstrued, combobulated, taken out of context. And that's why in today's English language, you have two words that are very important for you to understand. The first one I'm sure you're familiar with is called a connotation. The second word you might not be as familiar with is called a denotation. Now, what is a denote? When you denote something, you're speaking about something. First of all, you see the word note, right? And note, as you know, is related to sound also. If you're a musician, you know, give me the note, give me this note. That's sound, it's music. But it's also something you write, right? I'm writing you a note. And the note is supposed to make sense. Don't send me a note that doesn't make sense. You could have 10 words that are all miscombobulated. I'm looking at it. What are you trying to say to me? It's not a proper sentence. All you have to do is rearrange the words in proper order, you know, noun, verb, adjective, adverb, you know. Oh, I see what you're trying to say. Now I had to descramble this message or this note. So a note is supposed to make sense, is the point. Denote simply means the original note. When I'm giving you a denotation, I'm explaining to you a word based on how it originally was supposed to be understood. Arabic, out of all the languages, and also Hebrew and other Shemitic languages, or what are called Afro-Asiatic languages, they have maintained the integrity of the denotations for words. When the Western languages began to develop based on this widespread thing that the Phoenicians had a knack for doing, going throughout many parts of the world and teaching them all over again what their language should be. When they began doing that, they created something called connotations. You know what a con is. You know what it means to be conned. Well, they are conning the notes. Now they'll tell you, no, that word con means with, you know, something to, no. That's what they want you to believe. There's always what they want us to believe, and then there's also what they believe when they're in closed quarters and laughing at us for believing that. Got that? Right? So they are conning the note. Very important to understand this point. There are people who are conning the note. So when they called us Negro, like I said, you think it's just some people from a particular part of Africa or living in particular parts of the Americas or whatever, and you say that's Negro. Yeah, those are the Negroes. But behind closed doors, the people who invent this twisted language, they look at it totally differently. They're listening to the phonics of it. They say Negro. Okay, let's see what that is. Knee. Hold on. Get some knees up in here. All right, I got to get my pen back. Give me one moment. Hold on. People are still coming in. Okay, very good. One moment. Here we go. So they say Negro. Everybody see that? You're hearing Negro, Negro. They're saying these are Negroes, people who only grow knee high. Now, why is that important to understand? See, if you're not a deep thinker, this will just whoosh. But if you will learn to train yourself to join the group of deep thinkers, and that's what Imam Muhammad was attempting with his level best to introduce to our community, the idea of being a deep thinker, not a surface thinker. He said it's not looking at a thing. He said it's looking into a thing. Yes. Because there's always the surface, and then there's what's lurking beneath the curtain, beneath the facade that is established by the curtain. You have to learn to know how to do both. So Negro, on the simple level, yeah, that's a particular people out of a particular part of Africa or living in certain cities throughout the continental United States. Those are the Negroes, the Negro population. But in their philosophy and psychology and ideology, in their idea, the seed that they're planting for you is that the Negroes are people who cannot go above the knee. Now I'm going to prove it to you two different ways, and you're going to love this. Think about all of the popular sitcoms that African Americans have starred in. There usually at some point ends up being some little guy, Arnold, who can't grow. George Jefferson, thank you. He was as tall as he was going to get. Webster. We got caught up in that web, didn't we? children that grew into adulthood and stayed the same basic height or size. So what's the whole thing behind this? This is all what is called satire. Another point from Imam Muhammad. He said that the enemies of the world created satire because they couldn't tell you out front what they were planning to do against you. So in order to keep themselves entertained, they all know the codes for these words. So when they say these words, and another one is even on the other side of the planet, he or she still knows, oh, he's talking about those people, the knee-high people. Now, I'm sure all of us at some point in our medical history have been to the doctor where he's taking that little mallet. Where did he hit you? In the knee, on the knee. And what would happen to your leg, the bottom portion? That's right, reflex. They call it a knee-jerk reaction. So look at the bigger picture, what they're saying about the Negro. Those who can only grow to the knee are being ruled over by knee-jerk reactionism. Why is that so important? Now we're getting into areas of deep, deep psychology that this world uses on masses of people. If they can rule you through knee-jerk reactionism, that means all they have to do is hit a certain tender spot that they are guaranteed you're going to respond to. They'll use a certain word. Oh, this white man said nigger. The world becomes enraged. Are you a nigger? No. You say no. Well, why are you so jumpy about it? What are you worrying about? I know you got some answers for that. We got not going to take them today. I'm asking general questions this afternoon. The point is that they know that there are certain areas of your history. The white man, the white police, he shot another one of us and killed us dead yesterday in Los Angeles. Well, how many did you shoot and kill the night before in Chicago? You don't know how to match those two pictures. You killed the 30 in that weekend, but you're reacting in a knee-jerk fashion against one white man who killed one black child the day before. Not to justify that. That ain't what I'm here to tell you. I'm here to show you the tremendous imbalance that's operating within the psyche of African people, African-American people especially. And as long as you have that tendency to just be a knee-jerk reactionary, you'll never solve your issues and problems. You can't do it by just reacting, because they found out that in the zoo or even in the jungle, when they studied monkeys, forgive me for this analogy, they found out that monkeys also have a knee-jerk reactionary kind of movement, where something could be displayed in front of them and they will act up like, they just start throwing stuff, jumping up and down, jumping up and down until they get tired. And when after they get tired, they go right back to their regular life. Tell me that ain't us. When the protest is over and done, we go back, oh man, we really told that white man about himself. Now let's go get us a big plate of ham hocks and celebrate our victory on the protest line. That's the majority of us. Sorry to say, that's the majority of us. Knee-jerk reactionaries. That has to change. And the only way it's going to change is when you learn to change the perspective of yourself. That's what the Quran was revealed for. So that human beings who have been mired in the mud based on other people's vision and perception of them being foisted upon them being manipulated into certain thinking and behaviors that they are not in control of. The Quran came to take the control from them and give it to you, if you are ready to be responsible for it. Now, the question I ask Muslims around the world, talking to you out there in YouTube land or whatever, the question you need to ask yourself is, am I ready to be that independent? Because if you are, then it means you also have to be, as a Muslim, independent of what they've told you about Islam. Because the ones who dictated that were not people who were invested in the Quran and the freedom of the human mind and the freedom of the human soul. Those people were not, the Islam you got is the product of turmoil, historic turmoil that produced empires, three major ones. Umayyad Empire. If you haven't heard that term, look it up. Abbasid Empire to follow. If you haven't heard, and they were enemies of each other, killing each other for no reason. And they both claimed to be Muslims. And this happened very shortly after the passing of the prophet, not that many decades after. This foolishness began. Everything that the Quran said don't do, everything that the prophet told them, I wouldn't do that if I was you. As soon as he was in the ground, I'm sure he wasn't even told in the ground before they started these, because they were planning it while he was alive. And in the Quran, Allah puts in the mouth of Muhammad the prophet, he's crying out to Allah. He says, my Lord, my people, meaning the Arabs, my people have abandoned this Quran. How could that happen while he was still alive? Because there were people who were planning and plotting and scheming to do that while he was alive. They are called munafiq, hypocrites. People who are saying one thing with their mouths and doing something behind your back to counteract what it is you're trying to establish. Everybody with me so far? All right. You might say, well, what does all of that have to do with NuNetics? I thought we were here to learn about NuNetics, man. I've been teaching you NuNetics since I opened my mouth. Sandy was teaching you NuNetics. William was teaching you NuNetics. If NuNetics is born out of nature, anything we say related to nature is going to be related to NuNetics. If you have that kind of ear, that's why I said your ears are more important than your eyes in this case. Allah says, created us in the wombs, hearing and seeing. Listen to the order. Created you within the wombs of your mothers, hearing and seeing. You have to learn to listen first. We hear and we have obeyed. You have to learn to listen first. When that baby's in gestation, she's as close to the mother's heartbeat as she will ever be. And that's rhythm. So the infant learns to hear first. That's a vibration. You are vibrational creatures. That's why they can control you right now with music. See, they know the science. You just know the booty shaking part of it. You know the breakdancing part of it, but you don't know the science of the beats that are making you breakdance, that are encouraging you to break. And I say making you because I remember as a teenager going to these different, I used to like to go to clubs to hear live music sometimes. Or sometimes I just go to, in the 70s, man, that was my music. So me and my family, we would go and we'd go in and, they had those big speakers then, right? And you be just kind of minding your business on your way into the door and you pay your little fee of $5 or whatever it was back then. And as soon as you get in there and that speaker beat got hold of you, I don't care if you didn't want to dance. You're going to at least be tapping your foot to that beat. Same song you're listening to on your little transistor radio. Oh, I don't like the new song by whatever group. And as soon as you get in the club and hear that song coming through those big speakers, you ready to go out and buy it. Because it's manipulating you into, see, any sound that is greater than another sound can actually take over that sound. I saw this in elementary school. They had a film of a frog, two frogs, and they were magnifying audibly the heartbeats of these two frogs. The frog that had the louder heartbeat ended up having the one with the weaker heartbeat acquiesce to its rhythm. So in other words, if the stronger one was like, and the weaker one was, but operating at different frequencies, like the closer they got, the one with the stronger heartbeat made the other beat exactly the rhythm of itself. So by the time they got this close, they were both going. But that last beat was the beat of the stronger drummer. Y'all got that? That's how they conquered us through music. I'm giving you wisdom that you can go study and do reports on, papers, books on what I'm telling you right now. All right. So that was the whole idea behind that. So Allah gave Adam the permission, actually the commandment, to name all things, to name things. So unless you know what those original names were, it means that the language that you're communicating through is counteracting, counterbalancing, no, not counterbalancing, but counteracting for sure, whatever the original frequency was that Allah intended for your brain to operate on, because the frequency is contained in the name, in the sound. So if Allah said that you were this, and the system came and told you you were that, whatever the strongest beat is, the one you're hearing the most, the one that is repeated most often, you ain't nothing but a nigga. See, that's repeated more often than you are a dignified human being. When did you learn that in school? Maybe in a class on the United States Constitution where it talks about the dignity of the human. You know, you might have learned it there for a minute, but in the street, that ain't what you heard. Yo, my nigga, what up? And we say, oh, that's a good word when we use it, but the white man better not use it. If you can't reach me. See? When he slaps that R on the end and he says nigger, that's different than when we say nigga. And guess what? That young guy is right. I'm going to throw you some curves in this class today. When you say nigger, not you, and you say to each other, believe it or not, when you trace it back through language development, nigga is not a bad word. It's not a new word. We're talking about NuNetics, the newness of NuNetics. That word nigga and the word nigger comes out of Africa. You got a country right now called Niger. They call it Niger, and they call it what they want. You got Nigeria. It's the same word. And the way we got the word nigger is through the misunderstanding of the white man and his mispronunciation of words. He looked at those people. He knew they were from Niger, but he couldn't pronounce Niger. That's too sophisticated for his southern tongue. So he said, oh, nigger, the people from nigger, the niggers, and that's how you became a nigger. But essentially, there's nothing wrong with the word, because the word nigger in that part of Africa originated in the country of what's now called Ethiopia. Remember the place where Muhammad sent the people who were being oppressed in Arabia? He sent them into Abyssinia, which is now called Ethiopia because the Greeks, like they did many other things, they renamed it. But even Ethiop is not a bad word. Ethiop means ethical optics. These are people who were seeing through ethical vision. They understood, and they're not talking about themselves. The Greeks weren't describing themselves. They were describing the Africans in that part of the world. They said, these people are so full of sciences and stuff that we never knew existed as knowledge. And everything they're teaching is related to ethical, moral, and ethical development and balance and treating people well and this and the whole world. People don't know. The whole world used to come to Ethiopia to learn, sit at the foot of the ancient Egyptians, the ancient Ethiopians, even before they sat in Egypt. People don't know that because they look at Ethiopia today and they're all poor people, starving people. They did that on purpose. So you'd never have an inkling to look over there for anything except poverty, despair. Am I being understood? Yes. Right? Perfect. All right. But when they were called Abyssinia, Ab means father. Like in Arabic, same thing. Abba, Abba. In Hebrew, Abba. In Arabic, Abu, right? So Ab means father. Father of what? Whatever Sinia means. So father of Sinia. What is Sinia? In the language of the ancient Ethiopians, Sinia means everything in your surroundings. We have the word today in English, scene, S-C-E-N-E. So everything on the scene. They're saying this is what we did. You want to know our greatness? We produce everything that you see in this scene that you're looking at. We are Abyssinia. Literally, it means everything that the sun shines upon. Yeah. See, Abyssinia. Sinia gave us the word sun. And sun, as long as it's out and you're able to see things visually through it, they're saying, look all of the way down there. Can you see that temple all of the way miles away from here on this flat land? Yeah, we see it. We did it. That's what the Abyssinians were. That's your history. Stop thinking you just from Senegal. You just some captured slaves out of Senegal. Don't be that crazy anymore. You were the builders of civilization. Honorable Elijah Muhammad told you need to go back and look at his language. Father of civilization and God of the universe. Oh, that's astaghfirullah, ma'am. We're not the gods of the universe. Yes, you are. If you know what gods means, if you know what the word means. I've gone over that. You got to go back to my old videos, but I ain't gonna cover it here. God and Allah are two different things. Let that simmer for a second. As a matter of fact, I gotta take a drink of water while some of you are loading your pistols. Not in this room, out there in YouTube land. Yeah. That's why you have to be a people of research. All right, let's get back to my notes. Time flies when you're having fun. All right. So once again, NuNetics is the means of identifying nature-based meanings of letters. Arabic being the strongest language for containing the meanings that nature produced, not that men introduced, that nature produced. In the Quran, as mentioned, that nature is called al-fitra. Al-fitra. And if you look at that word fitra, you see consonants attached. You see the F, the T, and the R. That's it. This is a suffix, the AH. So it's fa, tau, ra as Arabic letters. This word fitra produced the English word pattern. The P in linguistics interchanges with the F as what is called a lip sound, a labial. The T, as you can see, although it's double, it doesn't matter. It connects with that tau letter, that T letter in Arabic. The R connects with the R in fitra, and the N is a suffix, just like the AH is a suffix. So once you learn how to identify the root letters in a word, you can compare them with other like words, related words, and you're going to get understanding out of that concept that you never dreamt or dreamed. I don't know, I'm just a high school graduate. Dreamed it, that you never dreamed you would get. Dreamt, I don't know. Whatever it is, you understand what I'm saying. So pattern and fitra are essentially the same word. So when you see someone say that this deen is deen el-fitra, they're saying that this religion is the religion of pattern recognition. Take that one back to your professor. Al-Islam is the religion, if you want to use that word, of pattern. That's a popular term in science right now. Pattern recognition. They say that everything exists within the context of patterns. You can't identify anything if it doesn't have a pattern. Even invisible things like air have patterns. That's why they say northerly winds. They know from where it's, even though it's invisible. They say, hey, we know where it's coming from. We see it pushing the leaves on the tree a certain way, or, throwing the garbage in a certain way, or blowing the leaves in a certain. They know that winds, air comes directionally, even though it's invisible. So it also has a pattern that can be described when people study that pattern. That's the fitra. So don't hear fitra and think it's just some Arab term or Arabic term that the Arabs, that's their stuff. That's their world. I have different language in my world. No, it's the same world. You live in nature. You live within the fitra. Yeah, well, it's your world too. Stop. I'm doing all of these things and saying all of these things to stop us from thinking, especially the younger ones among us, that al-Islam is an Arab phenomenon. And al-Islam has nothing to do, essentially, as a brain trust, has nothing to do with the ethnic Arab. In fact, they are the less populated Muslims on planet Earth, pretty much. Yeah, Malaysia, they got more Muslims. You got places in Africa, they got more. So it's not that they are the premier Muslims in the world. They are just the portal through which Allah introduced a particular language. And once introduced, every human being has access, whether you speak Arabic or not. Because, like I said earlier, Arabia is the language of the fitra. It's the language of Mother Nature. It's not the language of an ethnic group. I hope everybody's picking up on that. All right. So fitra represents the form and function that is inherent in all created things. Now we're going to go to the nitty-gritty of what fitra is, so you'll understand what NuNetics is. Everything in creation has these two essential components built into them. Form, what's the second one? Function. Yeah, you gotta say it louder if you want our audience to hear you. Function. Yeah. If you're my age, you remember a song called Function at the Junction. And you know, junction is where two things meet. That's spoken of in the Quran too. Moses at the junction of two rivers. Yeah. He had some function at the junction of 5,000 years ago. All right? Yeah. It's just where two things meet. So where form meets function is when you have operation. If I'm a clock, what do you call it? A clock maker? Cobbler or something like that? No, that's the shoes, right? What is watchmaker? Doesn't matter. Watchmaker. if you're a watchmaker, my brother, hey, assalamu alaikum. Thank you all for being here and being this patient with me. I hope you're really, really picking up on a lot of what I'm saying, and we'll go back and study it. People who make watches, when they sell it to us, they're hoping that we will be attracted to its form, the shape, the numerals, whether it's Roman numerals or digits or, digital or whatever. They're hoping that we will be attracted to its form, the way the band is, whether it's comfortable on your arm, that kind of thing, right? So that's how they sell it to the public. They concentrate on you being attracted to the form, but they never, ever depend on you being attracted to how it functions. Because the day when you become attracted to how it functions, you might be the replacement for that watchmaker. Because now you have the science that he has. The day that you learn how seeds operate in the earth is the day that you will replace the bunch of people who stand online in the grocery market to buy fruits. If you learn how they got those fruits, because now you know the nature of those same seeds and what they produce, they don't want to teach you the seeds. They don't want to teach you about the seeds, because then you might possibly become the replacement for those farmers who understand seeds. Now, in language, the day that you learn about seed letters is the day when you will begin to become the replacement for people who have invented and promulgated language all over planet Earth, wherever people speak words, not just Arabic, not just English. Yes, you have a question?
Yes, you asked a question.
Mm-hmm.
People who make watches and clocks are called horologists.
Horo?
Horo.
Spell that for me.
HOROLOGISTS.
Grief.
Horologists.
Okay. I never heard that before. I guess that's why they call them watches. You got to keep watching. Those are some new words that you sometimes. Thank you, my brother. This is the kind of audience I like. Yeah. Yes.
Science. Horology.
Yeah. It has to be. It has to be. Yes, indeed. All right. That's wonderful. I'm glad to have heard that. All right. Keep listening. Beautiful. That's how I know you're awake and listening. Don't be afraid. This audience here, not the audience on the Zoom call. We don't want to hear from you yet. The live audience, you can stop me and ask questions anytime you want. So understand that, yes.
That the original pattern for a picture, I thought of like the Native American picnics. They would be the closest to that I know of that was closest to nature.
Absolutely. Yeah, they weren't the only ones, but they were definitely in the top 10. Yeah, the Native Americans, and we say that that's a general term, and it's not even an appropriate term because it wasn't even called America when they were doing what they did. So because they have thrown us the whammy by calling them Indians in the first place, and they weren't from India. The dummy who said that, I won't give any names. The European who said that, he thought he was in India. He traveling around, and he bumped into the land and said, oh man, this looks like we can set up shop here. Bunch of nice things here. We might be able to explore. And he said, where are we? And his boy back there who might have been sipping some wine or whatever, I think we in India. Okay, well, those people must be Indians. And that stuck. You see how language does? All you have to do is repeat something over and over again. That's how we became niggers in the negative sense, because they repeated it to us and it made us repeat it to each other over and over again without giving us the real meaning for it. I meant to slip in the real meaning, and I will do that right now since we're on that subject of nigger. And nigger is related to the Ethiopian word naga, N-A-G-A. Anybody know what a naga is? Speak.
A scholar or king someone in charge.
A leader, a ruler, a king. So even though your academic brain is hearing down low ghetto dude, homeboy, or fellow gangbanger, my nigga, or whatever, that's what your academic brain is hearing, but you got another brain operating beneath the surface called your subconscious mind that is directly in touch with the fitra. Let me just finish this statement, and you got the mic. It is directly in touch with the fitra psychologically through sounds. And your subconscious mind knows deep, deep, deep in the reservoirs of those chambers that nigger is not a bad word. That's why you use it so often. Because your mind is telling you, even though you can't explain it academically, you can't even explain it rationally because you don't have that connection. Your conscious mind is not connected like that. Your subconscious mind is. That's where the reservoir of information is. And your subconscious mind does not know how to lie. Study psychology, please. Study what I gave you as the triune brain, the three-part brain. Okay? Your subconscious mind is the largest part of your three-part brain or three-part mind, the subconscious. The conscious is just like 5%, maybe 10%. And it's meant for us to just relate to each other like this. Make sure nobody's cheating us, at the counter, make sure, whatever. The conscious mind is just busy lying, putting together schemes to get stuff from people. Allah calls it, he talks about that conscious brain in the Quran. He calls it a lying, sinning forelock. Nasiya. A lying, sinning forelock. Forelock is the forebrain, the frontal lobes. That's the only place that your brain can lie. But the place where your brain recognizes the truth, even if you manipulate it into believing that it's the truth. Thank you, brothers and sisters, for being here. Alaikum salam. Even if you were fooled and it was told to you over and over again, anything that's repeated to you over and over again, and you don't put a block up against it, it's going to eventually be accepted by you as the truth. So that's what we're talking about. Miss Brittany.
I was going to ask about the definition again of as being dead from the neck up.
Yeah.
How does that relate? Or where does that mean?
That's a beautiful thing. I long to be dead from the neck up. I threw you another curve, didn't I? Yeah, that's a good thing to be dead from the neck up. I'm going to tell you why. See, we have to take this man's crooked language and make it straight. Because nothing comes here crooked. No baby comes here crooked. Oh, I'm sorry. For those who didn't hear in the YouTube audience, sister asked us about the word Nigger. And what does it mean to be dead from the neck up? That's what they say about a lot of people that they call Nigger. They said, we are dead from the neck up in need of a checkup. Now, here's the danger. If your death from the neck up, meaning your head, is dead, and the result of your head being dead is that the rest of your body follows, you're in trouble. That's when dead from the neck up becomes negative. Dead from the neck up means that there's no real brain activity taking place. There's no conscious attention to anything being given. Now, when that part of you, quote unquote, dies, but the body remains alive, you're in good shape. I'm going to prove it to you. Those who have been in Christianity, which is, I'm sure, more than a handful of us sitting at this table before becoming Muslim, or still maybe you're Christian. In the Bible, I'm going to teach you something about your Bible. In the Bible, when they supposedly crucified Christ, he wasn't dead until they gave him two things. Anybody know what those things are? Vinegar and hyssop. Vinegar, I just slowed it down for you on purpose. If it's consonantally connected, it's going to have a related meaning. Yeah, there's some niggas who are on the vine. That's how they grow. You don't watch them, they be all over the place. Vinegar and an herb called hyssop, Hyy, I think S-O-P, or Hyssop. Either way, you'll find it. Right. Now, what is vinegar? Vinegar is something that if you hold it close to your nose, it cuts your breath quick. Right? You don't want to be in close proximity to vinegar. Hyssop is an herb that lowers blood pressure. So let's put those two things together. Vinegar cuts the breath, and the breath is related to the spirit. So it causes you to lose your spirit. The drop in blood pressure is a coded a term because blood is a symbol in the Bible and the Quran of social life. So low blood pressure means a weakened social life. That this manipulation we're talking about, called the crucifixion of Christ that they give you in the Bible, is representative of the disconnection from spiritual life, the vinegar, right? Because things just hang on the vine. They ain't really out to do any good, any real work. And then you have the hyssop, which is reducing social pressure. It reduces your blood pressure. It's social pressure. What is social pressure? Social pressure is when they kill your baby. Let's go back to the example of the popo and they in your neighborhood for whatever, and they decide, well, let's just shoot us a nigger tonight. Excuse the expression. And they do it, and you get out and protest, like I told you, until that dies down, and they put something else on the front page of the newspaper for you to be worried about instead of that. Right now, everybody done forgot about Maui. There's 1,000 missing children. Nobody's talking about it no more. They reduced the social pressure related to that event. There are a bunch of stuff that happened in the last 2 to 3 years that were major activities in the world, and nobody's talking about it anymore. That's the reduction in social pressure. So they're not talking about Jesus as an individual in history. They're talking about Jesus as a movement that takes place within language. How they manipulate you through it's the language that's causing you to don't regard it anymore, not pay attention to it anymore. How do you know, instructor, that Jesus is talking about a language? Because the Bible says Jesus is the Word. Let's call him the Word of God. What is the Word of God? The language of God. Where's the language of God? In what God created. What did God create? The fitra. Case closed. So it wasn't the crucifixion of an individual, that's a very little consequence, except to the people who were there and related to him and loved him and supported him and his immediate disciples. And that's important to them if he was crucified physically, but that's not important to the world and to the future of the world. What's important to the future of the world is that they crucified what he said as teachings, as the word of God. What did he teach you? That's what was crucified. That's why the Quran says they neither crucified him nor killed him, but it was made to appear as such. And those who argue about it, Allah says they have no knowledge. They don't even know what they're talking about. So they no use in getting to an argument with a Christian or that. They killed him not. You know, it's like he loves me not. It's not even a question for us. Because we know from the beginning that in the Quran, it's also said that he is kalimatan min Allah, that he is a word from Allah. Both books say the same thing. Y'all following this? Should I slow down? Should I stop? Okay, so hopefully that kind of answers that. We had another related question.
And so, as you're saying these things, and I'm starting to make connections, Jesus being born of a virgin mother would be a pure fitra.
Absolutely.
Word
Virgin.
developed out of a pure environment.
Virgin simply means untouched, unscathed, unmolested. Now, what mother is that talking about? Mother Nature. That produced the fitra. It produced this language. Mother Nature is producing this language. The language of how the clouds speak to your brain and what they suggest to your brain. Clouds. When you study them outside of the academic classroom, I'm sure everybody here as a child got fascinated with what clouds were doing when they taught you, before they taught you not to pay them any attention. But I used to be a little boy looking out the window and up at the clouds, and I see clouds joining each other. I see clouds breaking apart from each other, dissipating, disappearing, and then be a totally blue day like today. Probably is no longer, because they're manipulating most of this weather. The clouds out here are fake. But the original clouds, they are suggesting things to the human intellect that are meant for your growth and development. Allah calls them ayat, instructing signs. In the skies, he said he created instructing signs in the earth and similar signs in you. But Allah says that most people pay them no attention whatsoever. If you have any other questions, hold them for one more. I only have this one page to go. All right. So let me get past the page and then we'll open up for questions and we can really get loose in the good sense. All right. Okay. And I'm trying to be cognizant of the time also. All right. So going back to fitra, we're talking about the form of a thing. It's outer form, like we were describing the watch, and how any child can draw a watch on a piece of paper, round circle, two hands, numbers 1 through 12, you know. Any child can draw a tree, right? Start with the wood and get the roots or whatever, you put that in the ground. I'm talking about a 10-year-old can do that. Color it brown, and then when you get to the leaves and branches and that kind, and then you might want to put little fruits on it, little apples hanging on. Every child can do that. But can a child tell you how the tree grows? Can a child tell you how the watch functions? Can a child tell you how the sun rises and sets, supposedly? Because when you come into further knowledge, science, it's not rising and setting at all. That was just a facade created by Allah to stimulate something in your intellect that he wants to relate to how you rise and fall. Not how the sun is rising and falling. He wants to tell you how the sun in you rises and sets. All right? So it is a matter of comparing the forms of things, which is the first level of information that Allah wants you to know, what the form looks like. And then how that thing acts internally. We call it functionality. If you have a pretty watch, like I used to think I was getting when I was on 42nd Street looking for watches, and they had those $10 watches, the African brothers, $10, brother, $10. And boy, they got little gold and little diamonds around it. I was fascinated. I said, let me get one of those watches to wear on special occasions. That special occasion came and went, and so did the watch's functionality. But I still had the form. I could show off the form, just like a lot of these young sisters show off their forms, but they ain't got nothing functioning inside the form. And the same I can say for the brothers, but more for the sisters. At least sometimes the brothers will cover, they cover themselves up. Most of the sisters you see, especially here in ATL, my goodness, I couldn't sit and have breakfast without the window. I got up from there with a crick in my neck. And I'm not looking because I'm admiring. I'm looking to see, how does she wear that outside of her house? Why does she want me to know all of that? And then if you go try to talk to her, it's another problem. Well, you ain't got no business talking to her. Well, you opened up the door. I'm speaking for our young brothers now. You shouldn't have been wearing that if you didn't want me to look at you and say nothing. Y'all know what I'm saying? I'm the man born to tell it to you like this, without fear of repercussions. Now, so don't pay as much attention to form. Forms change. I can put a different kind of battery in that watch, and that watch will still work. I can replace the hands on the watch with new hands, and the watch will still work as long as its functionality remains intact. As a human person, you have to be more concerned with what's happening inside of you than externally outside of you. Because this could get caught in a fire, and this whole melanin thing I could turn whiter than any white person you've ever seen. You understand? Yeah, I'd be burned up in the fire. I can have an accident, I can lose an arm, or part of my form. As long as I don't lose the vital stuff in this torso, I'm good. You can sit me in a wheelchair, I can still function. But if you leave me just with the form, because your whole concentration is on how you look. See? Yeah, how you look in the mirror. Mirror, mirror on the wall. Who's the finest of them all? And you look in the mirror and say, I is. The me generation. It's me. I look better than that sister. And I can tell you're competing like that when I watch you together. And she looks you up and down, especially if she just met you. This is my friend Rachel. Mm-hmm. Hey, Rachel. She looking at everything you got on. Brother's just looking at your sneakers. If your sneakers are straight, he don't care what you're wearing on top of it. Holy jeans or whatever, baseball cap turned backwards. But if your sneakers are fly, you good with the brothers. Because they taught us, they trained us to concentrate on the form. You are not form. When Allah speaks about a human being in the Quran, it has nothing to do with your physicality. It has to do with your mentality, your emotionality, and your, what's the last one there? Yeah. Spirituality. All right, here we go. And that's function. Yes. Those three things I just mentioned, that's your functionality, right? So the form is the outer picture. The function is how you work internally, inside of you. That's your functionality, okay? That's how that works. So pay attention to how you function. You should get good books or be online half the day that you're free at home. You should be studying form and function. NuNetics learners, I'm telling you the crucial input that you need to understand NuNetics are tied into those two concepts. Because the seed has a form. When you look at the seed and you compare it to other forms that look like it, there's something on your body right now that looks like a seed in its shape, in its form. What is it? Yeah, who said that? Your eye. Yeah, your eye is shaped like a seed. That means that there's going to be something related to the seed that is also to be compared with what the eye does. Forms compare with other forms like it. If I point you to the cloud, like I did a minute ago, there's something on your body that looks exactly like a cloud floating in the sky. What is it? And it's up high too in your body. Huh? No. Yeah, your eyebrow. We're not taught these things. Yeah. Draw a picture of an eyebrow and put a picture of a cloud right next to it. Or just pull one out from the net, from the internet. So whatever the cloud has been designed to do by Allah, he put a similar meaning. When you sweat, where does it come from? From where? Down here. When it rains, where does it come from? Case closed. You can sweat so hard that you have to close your eyes, right? It can rain so hard that you have to close your eyes. You be out there like, oh, get me an umbrella. These are the secrets and the codes that Allah has clocked into the fitrah that we don't learn about in public or private school. NuNetics is going to bring us that understanding. That's why I say NuNetics is a matter of life and death, but the life and death of your intellect. And the life and death of your soul is connected to the learning of the language of creation, the fitrah. So that's function, how a thing works inside. And we spoke about the Negro. Every letter is a character, last point. And every character represents a characteristic. Ask any grammarian, any linguist, what is a character in linguistics? They tell you it's every alphabet. They call every alphabet a character. The character A, the character B, all the way to Z. In Arabic, alif, ba, ta, all the way to, those are characters. The written form is a character. In human beings, we call characters characteristics. And a characteristic is how you behave. He is characteristically stupid. That's his regular. Or she is characteristically brilliant. She's brilliant all of the time. Just like you see her now, see how she's teaching now. She's like that all the time. I'm so happy we raised a daughter like that. She's characteristic of excellence in the intellect, that kind of thing, right? And the majority of you in this room are like that. I could say everybody in here. You're characteristic of brilliance. That's why you're here. And that's why I'm where you are. If you got a place for me to be. Because brilliance recognizes brilliance. Light recognizes light. And anytime light is present, it will dispel any ounce of darkness. And all you need in order to dispel a room of total darkness is the flicker of one match. Darkness is done. So keep your match lit. I like that when the young people say that party was lit, but they don't come out with no knowledge. So just get the right, attach the right application to it and you're good. All right. So character is an alphabetic letter, graphic symbol standing for a sound or syllable. I'm going to leave you on the meaning for syllable. Pay attention to the pronunciation of letters. Break these syllables down, pull them apart. If you were to pull the word syllable apart, what sounds would you have? Anybody can answer that question in the room. Who said able? Good. Now give me the first part of the word. Sill. Seal, sill, it's all the same. As long as it's consonantally connected, it's going to have a related meaning. Right? So if I say seal the bottle, what are you going to do? Close it. Yeah.
It's two opposites coming together.
Yeah, that's right. If I say, build me a ceiling in this room, the ceiling is intended to keep enclosed everything between the ceiling and the floor. The ceiling. Yeah. The Quran is called this, the prophet is called the seal of the prophets. That means ain't no more prophets can get in. You can call him Prophet Jones if you want. Prophet Farad, they call Farad, Prophet W.D. Farad. Not according to the Quran's meaning. The Quran's meaning for prophet, because it was sealed with Muhammad the prophet. That means no other prophets can get in. He can sneak in. They can't, blow the cap off the bottle and sneak in like a genie, or they can't do it. And none can get out. Isn't that beautiful? All of the history of the prophets that have existed from the beginning, that history is locked into the Quran. And Allah gives you archetypes so that he doesn't have to put everybody's name in there. If he gives you the proper archetypes, 1 or 2 to 3, 12, 15 of them, however many of them, between all of those characteristics, between all of those personalities, is the model or the type that Allah wanted to establish. Anything else is just a repeat. You get it?
Yes.
Anything else is just a repeat. All right? Now, syllable. So keep that in mind. The SL sound is what we're talking about. It's something that won't let out what's supposed to be in, and doesn't let in what ain't supposed to be in. I mean, it doesn't let in what's not supposed to be in, and it doesn't let out what's in. That's a seal. But that's true for all words that contain the SL sound. Give me another word that has the SL sound. Say it again.
Salat.
You said salat? Very good. Give me 2 more.
Solution.
Solution. Give me one that's just one syllable. Silent. So if I'm silent, I'm not letting out any words.
Salt.
Salt. Okay, give me another one word. This closest to you as it can get, this word I'm thinking of. Soul. All right, let's talk on that word soul. Y'all still with me?
Yeah.
All right. Won't be that much longer. The soul is something that has been created by Allah with properties that were not intended for anything good that Allah put in it to get out and become damaged or destroyed or dissipated. Okay? And the soul has been designed so that foreign matter could not creep in and tinker with it and make it something different. So it will either live or be destroyed. Imam Muhammad spoke about the great elimination of the soul. He said that time was on us. He said, in fact, it's right up on our heels, paraphrasing. The great elimination of the human soul. And he said it would happen soon. You're seeing it now out in the world. You're seeing it now in these shutdowns. You're seeing it now in the way people are being treated without regard for who sees them doing these evil things. They just do it because they think you're too dumb to protest or to understand what's being done. Anybody with a badge or anybody with a title can do something. The judge can, I'd say just recently put somebody to trial without even charging them. That's amazing what this world is doing now. Take your personal thing out of it. You got to look at what's happening in that scene. These are scenes. And my wife told me once something that I will never forget. She said, life is a rolling video. Do not judge it by its snapshots. I told that to one of my children who was having some difficulty. I said, son, don't worry about it. There'll be others. You know what I'm talking about. Just how many human beings on this earth you're gonna be traveling, just stay right in your personality. Keep growing and learning yourself, and maybe something you did. You gotta check yourself, right? But life is a snapshot. It's a Polaroid, You remember those? Right? You have to take it to get developed. Well, that's how these snapshots are. You have to develop them. You have to look at them and say, what did I do? What did I do wrong? I'm yelling at that one. I'm cussing her out. And it might not be her. It might have been me. That's what happens when you get your picture back from the photo place before they had these instant, You used to look at the photo and you say, oh, man, I didn't know my hair was looking that raggedy. You start criticizing yourself.
Yeah.
That's why you look in the mirror every morning before you leave home, right? Oh, whoa, wait a minute. I'm glad I had this piece of lint on the side of my, I didn't realize I had breakfast on the side of some jelly from my jelly toast on the side of my lips. I'm glad I looked at myself, but we're trained now to look at everybody else and criticize what they ain't doing, what they did that they shouldn't have done. But we ain't looking at ourselves. You remember what they used to say? When you point at somebody, you got one finger pointing at them, 3 pointing back at you, and testifying to God, right? About what it truly is. So don't point at people. Look at the whole Quran is designed for us to look at ourselves first. When it talks about the hypocrite, it's not talking about the one out there doing stuff against you without you knowing. It's talking about you doing things against yourself that you don't know you're doing. When it talks about the kafir, it's not talking about the one who's covering the truth. They're talking about what you're doing to cover the truth that's trying to knock on your door and get in. Every character in the Quran is speaking first and foremost about what is happening as activity within you. That's the first place to look. Then you begin to say, okay, now that I'm halfway straight, let me begin to help make corrections out here with the other people who are in my situation and suffering from what I'm suffering. Now you can give proper guidance with the proper amount of respect for people. You're not trying to just barge in and say, I'm better than you, and I'm going to tear your house down, and look at me, I'm the great one, and I'm showing you how to do this. You stop looking at yourself like that. And you start to have more compassion for people. You can't look at a Christian and say, I'm a Muslim. Therefore, automatically, when she says, I'm a Christian, or he says, I'm a Jew, here we go. Because they're not a Christian or a Jew or Muslim first and foremost. They're human. So you first look for what you have humanly in common with each other. Starting with emotions. Did you have proper feelings for things? Did you greet me when I greeted you? So you look for those things. And you don't go to a Christian and just go, Salaam alaikum, ahi, Salaam alaikum, sister. Do you know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in his book about blah, 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 and Jesus and blah, blah, blah. You don't approach a Christian. You just met this person. You don't talk to them like that. You got a brother coming in to visit you. He's in the Nation of Islam. All of us were in the Nation of Islam, if not physically, genetically. Your genes were in there. Your mama, your daddy, your uncle Pookie, all of them went through the Nation of Islam. And if they didn't go directly, they went, if you were in America, you were affected by the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And it was the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad which remain the reason why you're still here intact and not totally destroyed by the government powers that could have wiped you off the map. During the times of Dr. King and the Reverend this one, and they were fighting for civil rights and all of that. But the government was not afraid truly of Dr. Martin Luther King and his peace project. They were afraid of what would happen if they didn't listen to Dr. King. And the guy that was standing behind Dr. King was ready to make some moves. Now, you might say, oh, that was Malcolm. No, that was the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. Don't let this world fool you as to how they value people. They don't value you just because you're the microphone. They value the system of amplification that the microphone is connected to. Heard people tell me that, oh, it wasn't Elijah Muhammad. He couldn't even hardly talk. Well, how could he gather 30,000 people in one place? Malcolm didn't do that. I'm not criticizing Malcolm now. I know he was an effective spokesperson. But you are judging something based on you're weighing something based on a faulty scale. Yeah, not even a snapshot. That's not even a snapshot. You're judging something based on your value system. Because the more flowery a person can speak, he's in your estimation, Ralph Abernathy or Reverend, who was the other one in Harlem, the congressman? No. Before that, Adam Clayton Powell. Brilliant man. Oh, I like him. He light skinned. What kind of judgment is that? Yeah, see, the younger voices here said, well, because they can't believe that we used to think like that. And some of us still think like that. Yeah, the light skin. The light skin reverend? I'm in his church. That's how they describe him. Can hardly remember the man's name. But no, I'm talking about that. No, not him, not the dark skinned guy. I'm talking about the light skin, the one with the wavy hair.
Yeah.
I'm in his church. Yeah, the one with we used to call it the good hair. Yeah, the one with the good hair. He throw it back and just spray it before you leave the house. No, yeah. Michael Jackson got many more fans when he straightened his hair. With a little curl down the middle like Superman. See, this world of manipulators, and not that he's one, he's being ruled. He was being ruled by the manipulators. And they used his physical image to send signals that would represent what they were actually doing to the entire African American people. Yes, including the moonwalk. Everything. The diminishing of his African features, the wide nostrils, the darker, beautiful skin, the wide eyes, all of that, that they consider to be, man, I'm jealous of those people. So I tell you what, we're going to take their symbol, we're going to make him big, 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 but we're going to connect to his image, that which we want to be the overriding set of code language symbols. I'm trying to tell you what happened for real. The first thing we're going to do is interrupt his family life, snatch him away from his brothers, separate him from his five senses. He had five brothers. You call them the Jackson Five, but when they threw Randy in the group, they became six. So when they snatched him out, they snatched him away from five, and they snatched our people away from our five senses. I'm trying to tell you how this world works. You can believe it or not. This is how this world works, through symbolism. All right? And they've done it over and over again. When James Brown was becoming more and more popular, and he said, how are you going to get respect if you haven't cut your process yet? This was the man who died with a process. You can't explain it to me rationally. In the 60s, the Black Power movement and these things were gaining, the Black Panthers, everybody was on the set by then crying for equal rights. And if you don't give us equal rights, we're going to come take our rights. And the Honorable Elijah Muhammad was the formidable force in that movement. Although you probably didn't know his name, you probably still can't tell me what he did. It's not important that we know what he did. It's important that the power brokers know what he's doing. And they studied his language. They studied the language of his teacher. They studied the movements of the people on the ground, the foot soldiers under Elijah Muhammad. They said, how could this third grade educated man be marshaling an army of brothers that can appear just out of nowhere? You saw it in Malcolm X, the movie. They were in front of that police precinct, like, pum, 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 all the way down the line. How'd that happen? When did that happen? And them folks on top, they got scared of that. They said, we gotta shut this down. Boy, we gotta put an end to this. Because if they don't listen to Martin, they're gonna listen to Elijah and Malcolm. Even after Malcolm got taken off the set, they said Elijah is still in the running. You have to read their FBI reports to know what I'm talking about. Shaking in their boots. Now, is that to say, the name of Malcolm and Elijah and Martin and all those people are like pure and squeaky clean? They didn't do no wrong? No, they were humans. Did they make a misjudgment, a miscalculation along the way? Absolutely. But nothing that you should be excited about. Oh, but what about the babies? Like I said, nothing that you should be excited about. That wasn't none of your business. That didn't affect the running of the Nation of Islam. So why are you worrying about it? Why are you all up in his business, in his bedroom? What that got to do with you? You're just looking for an excuse to not follow good leadership. I'm telling it to you, righteous. And I'll include Minister Farrakhan in there. Well, he did this, and where did the money go? But that didn't affect you directly. Let him work out the kinks in his own organization without us putting extra pressure by bringing up stuff that has nothing really to do with us. If you read about it in the newspapers because they wanted you to have that in your brain to knock out all the good stuff that you might have been hearing. That's all that is. People will disagree with that, but that's my assessment. I take personal responsibility for what I'm telling you right now. Because I learned a few years ago, a couple of decades ago, to not judge the baby and not throw out that baby with the bathwater. I don't want the dirty bathwater. Whatever they did that was dirty, keep it from me. And get rid of it. And don't try to run it through a purification process and get me to drink it again. I'm not going to do that. I don't want a speck in my water. But the things that the person did if you use that yardstick to judge everybody, you would have thrown your mother and father away a long time ago. Because the one who meted out the most punishment on your behind were those two people if they were present. But did your mama do more good for you than not good for you? Do you remember her goodness and the things she helped you get through when you didn't know where to go, who to turn to, how to figure things out? Do you remember that more than the spankings you got? The punishment you got? I'm not going to let you go on that trip with your girlfriends because you didn't do what I told you. You remember that for the rest of your life. But you're going to remember that more than the good things she did for you when she paid for your college tuition and you refused to go after she paid the bill. You don't remember that. And I know there's some awful things that parents have done to. I'm not counting that. That's bathwater that just has the baby has to go in that case. That baby that was born out of that. No, you need a different set of parents. There's something wrong there. Yeah, because you got some abusers. And I'm not counting now. I'm counting natural, normal circumstances that people go through in their life. So stop taking your history. You got to remember that Allah gave us leader after leader after leader. Ain't no people on earth that I've studied had more leaders than Black folks in their small history time. Just leader during slavery. I ain't talking about after. Frederick Douglass, David Walker. Keep naming them. Nat Turner. My goodness. Harriet Tubman. Give me some more. Booker T. Washington. George Washington Carver. Sojourner Truth. Frederick Douglass. B. Du Bois. We said Nat Turner.
Yeah, just Nat Turner
In
twice, huh?
history, they got that many chances to come back into their right mind. Martin Delaney.
Uncle Tom.
Yeah, even Uncle Tom, if you understand who he was. Okay.
Traveler. And I bought his autobiography that he wrote.
Yeah, but do you? Yeah.
Yeah.
Josiah Henson, yeah. But you see how they can twist language to make you think that was something else? Uncle Tom now is a bad thing. So when you call somebody Uncle Tom, you call him for a fight. Yes, ma'am. Excuse me.
It makes me think of how
Mhm.
transform meanings and how's that?
Yes,
Is that what you're, it sounds like that's what you're.
it is. It's an alchemical concoction that they use in order to manipulate the world. And they learned it from ancient Egypt. Alchemical is from the word chemical. The word chemical is from the word chem. The word chem is from the word kemet, and kemet is Egypt. Your whole brain is operating chemically. So if I can get deep insight into the makeup of those chemicals, I can get in deep insight into how to manipulate your brain. It's called subliminal seduction for some. But because we refuse to study, I hope from this day on we will, but we have refused or didn't even know to study on this level. And it's not difficult. Whatever you give your attention to expands. Thank you. I want to hear that loud. Hold on. Whatever you give your attention to, it does what? Expand. So all you got to do in order to remember something or to be able to utilize something later is let it expand. Keep thinking on it. That's what dhikr is in the Quran. And Allah says that the dhikring on Allah is greater. How do you dhikr on Allah? You can't see him. You dhikr on Allah by remembering and studying his works. If I want to think on Picasso, I got to put myself in a room full of Picasso artwork. So where's Allah's artwork? All around you and inside of you, as he said in ayat, and in you, similar signs. It's all in you. Allah doesn't say study me. He says you can't see me. You can't feed me. I neither don't drink stuff. I don't eat stuff. I don't sleep. I don't slumber. So why are you trying to peek and see who Allah is? What do he look like? What skin color is he? And all that. Well, why? You can only learn Allah by studying his artwork. And begin with you, because you are one of the greatest pieces of artwork that Allah has ever created. That's why we neglect ourselves, because we don't know that simple fact. That's why we get sick on purpose. That's why we have failed relationships, sometimes on purpose, because we don't know how to handle emotions, because we're not studying emotions. The scripture is full of information on how to handle emotions. If you're reading the Bible, it's in the story of Adam and Eve and the serpent. Adam is your intellect. Eve is your emotions. The serpent are your instincts. Now go back and read the story again and come back and we'll have a conversation. Yes.
I want to go back to Brittany's first question. I don't know whether you finished that answer now, because you were on a thread and you were talking about, she asked about the dead from the neck up.
Yeah.
And you said that was a good thing.
Oh, yeah, I didn't finish that. Okay, good. Thank you. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
All right. So let me just finish this word character, and then I'm going to go straight to that and whatever questions folks will have in the audience. Right. Thank you for that. That was an important finale that I wanted to complete that.
Right.
All right. And in case you didn't hear him from the Zoom audience, we're going to be finishing up on what I said concerning dead from the neck up. And I added in need of a checkup. Now, character, alphabetic letter, graphic symbol, standing for a sound or a syllable. And I said, my meaning, a syllable preserves the ability within a character. So that means that if you're already seeing that able is in the word syllable, as our sister pointed out, then you should automatically deduce that syll indicates the preservation of something. And like I said, sealing preserves the integrity of what's in the room. Nothing can get out. Nothing can drop in on you because there's a sealing. Okay? If as a teacher, I create a syllabus, Miss Brittany, she's doing a wonderful work. I hope she'll say a word about that before she leaves. But if I create a syllabus, it has to contain information, and our brother, he's working diligently on that. These are master educators in this room. I don't know if you notice who's actually in here. Master educators, young. Makes me wish I was 20 again. But I am, because NuNetics makes you younger. Believe that. I've had 85-year-old learners say, Instructor, I don't know what you putting in them letters. Feel like a teenager again. Man, oh man, I know I'm not going older on that level. Man, physically, yeah, everybody got to go physically. But I'm talking about in here and in here, I am as young as I want to be. Any of y'all feeling like that? All right.
Fountain of youth.
Yeah, we're drinking, we're sipping. We ain't sipping wine no more like we used to do. Here's for the brothers that ain't here, that kind of thing, coolie high thing. We ain't doing that no more. We're sipping from the fountain of youth, where some of us would say youth. YOOF. I don't care if you don't know how to pronounce it, as long as I know what you're talking about, we good. Right? Now, somebody mentioned salat in relation to syllable, the SL sounds. Salat is intended to preserve the integrity of your soul. Another SL word. And your soul is what is keeping you whole, complete, united. If your life is falling apart and your mind is way over in left field, where your heart is way over in right field, and they never converge to help each other do anything, you know that's not right what you're doing, because your heart is saying, that's not right. But your mind is saying, but I need that money. Right? Some people's minds are saying, I know it ain't right, but I need that booty. Yeah, booty's just another word for money. But I want the ones out there who think booty is what you're thinking right now. Yeah, there are people who say, I'm going to chase that booty, even though I know it's wrong. It ain't what I need. Yeah, you understand? Yeah, there are bounty hunters out here amongst our people. We hunting for game. And we playing games on each other. Looking for what ain't going to do you no good in the long run. It'll do you a lot of good in the short run. But ain't gonna do you no good in the long, ain't gonna do you no much better than the dog on the sidewalk humping on another dog for pleasure. When all is said and done, if she has puppies, she might not even know who the daddy is. Does that sound familiar? I got to talk to you righteous. Yeah. All right. Now, SL words preserve the integrity of things. Salt preserves the integrity of the meats and the fish that they used to pack in the salts the seafarers, when they were going on long distances before refrigeration. Salt was the main preservative. SL words. Salutation, salute, comes from the word salat. What are you saluting? A superior officer. What are you doing when you engage in salat? You're saluting a superior force, power, Allah. Not your imam. You ain't saluting him. He doing what you doing. He's your whole world now, the imam. Every problem you got, you run into the imam. Imam, and you solve this for me. My bank account was short for $12.52. And they're about to close my account. Imam, can you appeal to the believers to help me raise this $12.52? Oh, yeah, and I forgot, I'm also owing $350 to the what do you call those people who you call who are not quite legal, legitimate? You get a loan shark. I forgot to tell you, man. I got a loan shark loan now. And they ain't gonna come, they ain't gonna shut my lights off. They're gonna shut my eyes if I don't pay this $350 today. And you're going to the imam with all these problems. That's not the imam's job. That's why imams can't function. That's why most of them are just forms right now. Just models, and they're just ritualistic, just robots. And that's all they can be in your life because you put too much pressure on the imams. That's why they can't function. Every masjid is supposed to have not only an imam, but also an amir. The imam handles the formal thing. Pardon me. Invert that. The imam handles the functional things needed for the masjid and the people who attend. The amir handles the formal things, the agreements that need to be made with people, making sure the lights stay on, and so forth and so forth. So the amir is the daddy in the house called the masjid. The imam is the mommy. Imam, mommy. Think they're not related? Imam is from the word for mother, So he's not, you think he's the father in the masjid. Daddy Grace in the masjid. No, that's not our world. He's the mommy. In the Quran, Allah tells Ibrahim, he said, I want to appoint you as the imam for all the people, for all the nations. What's the first question he asked Allah? What about my children? Now, with the average man, if Allah said, I'm going to appoint you as the leader for all people on earth, I've equipped you, I've prepared you, and you're going to get a big payday. The average male would say, where do I sign? He wouldn't even ask, what about my children? Man, right now, you give him a job overseas somewhere. If the money's right, he goes, baby, here's what I'm going to do. They don't even have a discussion. Here's what I got to do. I'll be away for 3 years overseas. But when I come back, we straight. But her mother nature says, whoa, 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 whoa. Before I sign on the dotted line, what about my children? No, I said, don't worry about that. But my agreement does not extend to the oppressors among them. So you see what Allah did in one swoop? He eliminated the idea of bloodline inheritance. And that's what the majority of these leaders in this world today, that's what they go by. Do you know the majority of people who have been president of the United States are blood related, including Obama? He said, not among the oppressors. So you don't inherit something just because your daddy was that. Now you're supposed to be that. Your daddy was king, you're the prince. Allah eliminated that through that one line in the Quran. You have to get it on merit based on how useful you are. Those who have faith and do deeds of righteousness, do deeds of reconciliation that bring things together that Allah wanted together and keep things apart that Allah did not want to be together. See, that's what this deen is. It's a deen of reconciliation of your human life with all of the good things that Allah provided for you. Allah says, who told you that the good things of the dunya were not for you? What they talking about? I created this whole universe for you. He said, who told you that? He asked you a question. So you'd start thinking, who did tell me that? In the church, they say Jesus told them that. Don't worry about the world. The world is Satan's. You'll get yours in the by and by. They put those lies in scripture. And they're never in the mouth of Jesus. They're always in the commentary that people are saying about what Jesus said. Get yourself a good Bible that has Jesus's words in red. Those are his actual words. Everything else is commentary. So you have to know where to look so that you don't get caught up by the master manipulator of language. So Allah says the good things of this dunya are for you, dunya, physical world, material resources. The good things of this world are for you in this world, Allah said. He didn't say wait until you die. He said, and they will be exclusively for you in the next life. And then we go, well, that's a nice thought, but go on it. I got to die to get that. No, the next life begins in this life. And you have the keys to its initiation and its ignition in your hands. The Quran. That's the key to opening up the doors of paradise for you right now. Let's say again, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad was spot on. He said paradise begins in this life. And he might have said it's exclusively here. When you die, there's nothing else except this. That was also coded language. Before he died. See, you people who are trying to run that game by showing us a will and testament of Elijah Muhammad from 1962, when he updated his will and testament, last will and testament in 1974. Told you that yesterday when you were watching the film, Brother Imam. If you update your will, the last one becomes null and void. So if he said that in 1964 in Message to the Black Man or in Our Savior Has Arrived or whatever, but not even in Our Savior Has Arrived. He updated it in Our Savior Has Arrived, if you read it correctly. But if he said before that, there's nothing after death. He said that. He said, there's just this physical life. When you die, it's over. Ain't no waking up into no paradise and, none of that. That's Elijah Muhammad's talk. But in his last couple of years, he said, there must be something after death. That's all he said. Read into that. He's looking at the condition of his Nation of Islam in 1971, 2, 3, corruptors, pimps masquerading as imams or ministers at that time. Many people I know who they are and were. Many of them are past now. So I'm not talking about I don't know what Minister Farrakhan is doing. I'm not in that world. All right. From here, I don't see that level of whatever it might be, corruption or mishandling of monies. I'm not in that world, so I can't speak on it. I'm not qualified. But I'm qualified to speak on what was happening during Elijah Muhammad's time. I spoke to basically all except for one of his children, including children who weren't from Clara. I've interviewed all of them. If you're wondering about my qualifications for telling his story, I've interviewed all of them, including their children and grandchildren. And I have done this one-man stage play on the life, leadership, and legacy of Wallace D. Muhammad in relation to his relationship with his father, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. I have been thorough in my research. And Elijah Muhammad said, there's got to be something after death. Listen, if you were in charge of all of these thousands of people, it said that when he died, he left at least 300,000 followers, most of whom began to join W.D. Muhammad when he stepped into office. And you're looking at what's going on. You're looking at the corruption, some of the things that were going on I'm not going to mention in this public video. But some of you who were there, you know better than I know. Where's all this stuff going? Where's all this money going? The man on his deathbed? He can't monitor all of that. You running off with the goose and the egg and all of that, and nobody's, and whatever, you riding around in a Mercedes Benz, and I still got holes in my shoes from soldering Muhammad Speaks newspapers? I'm supposed to be happy? Hell no. And people became very upset. And that's when he said, there's got to be something there. In other words, for all of the work that I've put in for these 40 some odd years, this can't be my compensation, what I'm seeing happen now. Can't be. So and I'm about to die. All indications say I'm out of here in a little while. There's got to be something after this. Doesn't that make sense to your intellect? Got to be something after this. That's my final note on that. All of us are syllables. All of us are letters that need to be put together in order to articulate our concerns. A letter, if you exchange the D with the T, is a ladder. Every time you learn a new letter, you're learning a new character. Every time you learn a new character and take it into yourself, you're going to become elevated, just like you're climbing a ladder. They say the ladder of success, but it can also be a ladder that helps you put out a fire, because a lot of folks are on fire today. You think hell is waiting for you after death? Hell is right here, right now, while you live. Some of you are going through it right now. So if you want to put out fires, get yourself the proper ladder. If you want to climb higher and higher up in terms of success, learn the letters connected to NuNetics. And it's going to take you past the clouds, because NuNetics is cosmic. It's universal, cosmic. It's intact. There's nothing you can do to destroy the universe. Nothing you can do to destroy Allah's fitrah. So if you based on a language, in a language that is fitrah based, man, there's nothing they can do to destroy you. You ain't got no worries after that. And your intellect will climb a ladder so high that it will eventually connect cosmically. I'm talking about cosmic information, knowledge. Listen, speaking as a so-called black man, everything we've done 400 to 500 years of being here under this level of tyranny, and nobody, as like Elijah Muhammad said, nobody came to help us. Do you know that that's basically true? Yeah, the John Brown here and there popping up, but nobody came to help you. They still ain't coming to help you. Look at your situation in the ghettos throughout America. Ain't nobody coming to help you. So you know what justice demands? That Allah send you help from somewhere else. And that somewhere else is in the cosmos. Now, when Elijah Muhammad was talking that knowledge about, spacecraft or, UFOs, they were laughing at him. The government wasn't laughing at him. But now you got the government in government hearings saying, yeah, there's such a thing. We've seen them. We caught them. We investigated them. We killed them. Now a lot of that is take it or leave it, because there's always games going on. But the point is that pay attention to whatever somebody says that can be connected to the Quran. Allah says, "Man fi samawati wa man fil ard." He says, whoever is in the skies and whoever is in the earth does glorify Allah. In another place, he says, whatever, ma fi samawati wa ma fil ard. Whatever is out there. Could be animate, could be inanimate. But the first one says man. Man always refers to a living being. When you take the word ma, M-A, and add an N, it becomes man, and the N is nun, and nun is a seed, and wherever there's a seed, there's a life form. And that's the end of my discourse. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. Oh, I didn't go back to I didn't go back to the nigga yet? No. Is that it? Not yet. What was I supposed to have? Oh, dead from the neck up. Okay. That's right. Now, when Jesus was being crucified in the Bible, I told you, they said they gave him what they gave him, vinegar and hyssop. So, okay, we're going to get deep into that part. Going to get deep into this part. They said that right before he died, he said, "It is finished." Some translate, "It is done." But then they add something to it. They say, and his head dropped. So for all intents and purposes, his head was out of the picture. but his body was still alive. How do we know his body was still alive? Because a Roman soldier came and punctured him in the side, and it said, and out came blood and water. When you die, when your body dies, that blood coagulates. You're not going to get nothing pouring out of the body if the body is dead. So for all intents and purposes, the body was still alive. It's only the head that had experienced an expiration. What does head mean? Leadership. What does the body mean? What Jesus called it? The body Christ. Christ is all of us. But something happened in the history of that development that allowed the leadership that was directly connected to the mind of Christ to become separated from the body in terms of its interest. The mind of Jesus, according to his words, are no longer what leads most of these churches in the world today, around the world. Roman Catholic, it doesn't matter, whatever of the hundreds of denominations you have, they're not operating based on the mind, with the mind of Christ, the true Christ that the Bible speaks about in code language, nor the Jesus that the Quran speaks about. That's a different leadership. That's a different interest that those leaders have in knowledge. I'm talking about. He was the Word.
Right.
So the Word became what Jesus in the Bible calls dead letter scripture. It's all throughout the Bible, what I'm telling you. When scripture becomes dead letter, that's effectively the leadership losing its position of authority over the people. And somebody else is telling you what to do. The moneymakers are telling you what to do. So when his head dropped, his body was like this. And the only profession that I know of that has this position and can still move his body, although his head has dropped, is the guy up high on the tightrope. You ever been to the circus?
Yeah.
Yeah, the tightrope walker. Out of necessity, he has to drop his head because if he brings his head into it, it's going to be too much to fear when he's looking up and down. Oh my goodness. So he takes his head out of it and he just has the balancing pole and he's walking step by step by step. So what is this to say? Something Imam Muhammad told us. That when the head becomes disassociated from the body, but the body is still able to balance itself, that's because the body is still responding to its fitrah. The fitrah of your body is to reach an equilibrium and to reach a balance. That's natural for human beings to want to be balanced emotionally, balanced even in the mind. You don't want to go going through extremes, thinking about different things. You want to come to a conclusion on things. So you take your head, meaning your knowledge, your rational stuff that you learned in books and, sitting and watching soap operas and how they handle their relationships. You got to take all that out of your life. When you do that, your head drops. But then it leaves it wide open for those things that are operating in your torso to take charge. What are they? Your heart, your lungs, your spirit, your kidneys, the filtering process. No, I'm no longer going to accept just anything anybody says. I got to filter this stuff out, right? If you leave it in your head might say, I got to hold on to that because that's been making money for me. I can't just tell them that was wrong. See how deep W.D. Muhammad was? He came in and said, no, what my father told you in these areas right here, that was wrong. He was filtering. Get it? Right? So there's a lot for us to learn in terms of these areas of investigation. It just represents being able to stay in motion, stay alive without having to refer to your rational mind. We do it all of the time, every time we lay down with our wife or husband. You take your mind out of it. You put your mind in that, you might not perform well. Oh, the last time we were together. Yeah, take your mind out of it. Let your body talk. Let your body make decisions. It's the same thing. You take your head out. Certain things we do, we have to take our heads out of it. Certain things you do, you got to take your imam out of it. And call it shura. That's the body, ain't it? You don't let the imam override the shura. That's the same thing. Take your head out of it. And let the body make decisions.
Virgin mother, no father.
Virgin mother, no father. The virgin mother is the universe itself and all of the principles that are cosmically connected to this universe. And no father means exactly what we said about no head.
Right.
Yeah.
That's the connection.
No head. So Mary produced a body called Jesus, not even called Christ. He didn't become Christ until he died, according to Christianity. He was Jesus up until he was crucified. If you read that story correctly, he was Jesus, not last name Christ, the Christ. It's a title. Okay, so no, you can't say that. It's too long a story. Go back into my old videos dealing with the chakras, and you'll see that Jesus are the three chakras from the bottom up. The root chakra, the sacral chakra. What's the next one? Huh? Solar plexus chakra. And they called him the Son of God, right? Jesus, the Son of God. And in one place, they actually kept it, S-U-N, of God, the light of the world. But he was solar plexus light. Above that is the heart, the garden, the green garden. Allah says, enter ye my garden amongst my workers. That's where the work is. These three down here are regulating your material life and existence. You got to eat. It's what the Honorable Elijah, I keep referring back to him on this day after his official birthday. He said, food, clothing, and shelter are first. He didn't say anything different than what's that ideology? With the pyramid, they use the pyramid. Yeah, the hierarchy of needs, Maslow. Yeah, Abraham Maslow said the same thing. Why they beat him up? You got to start with the basic needs. Baby, come here. You don't want no reading from the Quran when you come here. You talking about, alhamdulillah, here. Look, feed me, Seymour. No fat you have. I want something to give me some fat. Give me some milk, some colostrum up in here. Right? So let me just finish this point. So you got to be in touch with the basics first, is the point. The foundation. You don't build a house unless you build the foundation first. Right. Now, after the house is built, you're not going to see the foundation. You're going to see from the first floor up. You might see the basement and call that the foundation, whatever. But the point is that the foundation fades to black. And it's the same thing with your material nature. The things you crave after materially, as you get older and older, they begin to fade into the background. You say, I don't need as much money. I'm good on this retirement. You know, unless you want to do something really spectacular. You say, I can live off of this. Or I don't need all these boyfriends and girlfriends I used to chase when I was a teenager. I'm happy with my man. And I know some women at 70s, 80s years old, they say, I don't even want to get married no more. That didn't work. I got me a boyfriend. But that's her husband. He doing everything plus to hold on to that girl. You understand? Yeah, he's 77, she's 85, or whatever, you know, and they just ain't happy. Stop letting this world tell you what marriage is. That's the other big mistake we make. You got to go pay a man some money and get a certificate from him and whatever, and then you marry. And most of those marriages, 50% of them in America fail. They end in divorce. I could say more, but I'm not. Let me.
One point.
Yeah.
Imam Muhammad, when he came in, you remember he said, put away the books, you can put away all that other stuff and just listen to me for a while. That I see that as exactly what you were pointing out before as dead.
Let me make a modification. Imam Muhammad said, put away all of your books and only enter the room with the Quran and what I've taught you. That's essentially what he said. I might be paraphrasing a little bit. I'm telling you that was not actual factual that he was giving you. He didn't mean it like that. He did not literally mean put away every book. Don't read anything else. It would be dictatorship. That would be mind control at its highest level. Only take the Quran and what I told you. Do you think he followed that advice?
No.
Right after that, he produced a book.
That's right.
Ronald Shahid has it. The reading list of W.D. Muhammad, what he recommends we read. There's 100 books on that list. You understand what I'm saying? So he was not saying that. He was being, there's words for it in psychology, but he was just trying to get us to attract our minds towards something that would help it expand more. And that is the Quran and his explanations of the Quran. But he never meant to put down everything that you've ever learned outside of the Quran. Because the Quran is a problem in how we learn that. From Yusuf Ali. Who else you know the Quran from? Marmaduke Pickthall or Muhammad Assad. Those are translations. You haven't even really read the Quran yet. That's why we're introducing NuNetics. So you can go after those Arabic letters and words for yourself and connect them to the Fitra, study the Fitra. Now you're reading the Quran.
Wow.
Hope I'm not bursting any bubbles out there in Muslim land.
That's wow.
But I'm telling you a truth. You haven't read the Quran. You've read translations for the 40-something years you've been Muslim. I know I'm messing with some of y'all. But I'm messing with you with the truth. Right, Amen? I'm messing with you with the truth.
Got that right.
Try to bring you closer to the door. Yes, ma'am.
This goes on that topic. My question was when using the C letter meanings, because there's different meanings in those letters. Like when you are decoding the Quran, like which like meaning would you use? Like if
Good question. When you're using NuNetics, that method in helping to decode the letters of the Quran, which meanings, because multiple meanings are given within the context of each letter, which one are you using? First of all, let's take a particular word out of our lexicon. You didn't use it, but most people do. They say, how do you translate this using NuNetics? I say, I don't translate the Quran. NuNetics is not a translation process. NuNetics is designed only to give you the characteristics of a letter. You can take any of the characteristics that you discover based on what that part of the body is doing, what that thing in the environment is designed to do. Any of those you can apply to the meaning of the word that carries that letter. Now, what a big study that is. Let me give you an example. The first letter in the Arabic alphabet, what is it? All right, Aleph. What does it represent as a part of the body?
Spine.
The spine. What does the spine do? Now it's your go. Structure, keep going. Support.
Prop up.
Props you up.
Strength.
Keeps you upright. Strength is a strong bone in the body. What happens without it? Leadership. Good. What happens without it? You collapse. And if they remove it, what happens? You die. Even if you break it to a degree, past a certain degree, you are out of here. You're done. Correct? Right? So look at the names of prophets whose names begin with A, beginning with Adam. Abraham, Aaron. There are a lot of them because they're emphasizing the leadership aspect of that title. So everything that spine does, it has a spinal cord. That spinal cord regulates fluids. A lot of people don't know this about the spine. There are spinal fluids, two major fluids. In the East, they call them Ida Pingala. Study that. And Sushumna, where they meet at the bottom, get recollected, and then through another process are driven back up the spine towards the pineal gland of the brain. This is happening all in your body. And these are happening all through these letters I'm giving you through NuNetics. So when you think about the spine and what it does, now you take a word like Iman, Amana, that begins with Aleph, and you can apply each and every one of those characteristics. Because we're introducing characteristics, not meanings, not translations. The brain and what you think about it has nothing to do with it. You have to be able to prove it scientifically, that the spine does this. And that's why this word can mean this. It's a characteristic. Do you display every characteristic about yourself every time you meet somebody? No. You display characteristics based on the opportunity and the condition and the environment that you're in. Then you say, okay, I'm going to show you this part of myself. Words do the same thing. We call it emphasis. So every single meaning, characteristically speaking, can be employed if it's in that letter, if it's in that word, if that letter is in that word. That's what makes this so humongous a task of study. You are in kindergarten. You're in a kind of garden all over again. That's why it's new. That's why we're talking about the newness of NuNetics. This is like a brand new baby. We're talking about this in the restaurant. NuNetics is like a brand new, look at a brand new baby. They get frustrated only when needs are not being met. Other than that, they are in heaven. We're in heaven. How are you going to sit here since 2 o'clock? Going on 5 o'clock. If you wasn't in heaven, you're playing with your new toys. That's all you're doing. When you get these letters, you can't wait to get home and play with your new toys. I'm still playing with my new toys. Because Allah is sending me stuff, new stuff, right here as I'm talking to you. I can't, if I told you everything Allah is putting in my brain as I'm speaking, you'd never get out of here. Because these are new, this is new. There's a prophet called Noah. It means new. Because he started a whole new world. That's what NuNetics is doing. It's doing what Noah did. It's beginning a whole new world, but the flood has to come first. And the flood are from those critics. They think they can drown you out. They don't realize they're just drowning out their own efforts. They're just clearing the land for new growth, not Negro. The Negro is over for new growth. So I'm going to leave that in the interest of time, and I'm going to close out by just giving you words of gratitude. Thank you. Alhamdulillah, shukran, azila. Thank you very, very much for being with me and for being as patient and as observant as you have been. Atlanta is a very special place in this country and on this planet right now. And you might not see it, but I can pretty much visualize what's about to happen in the next 6 months to a year with the combination of forces and intelligence and emotionality and instinctive drive and everything you have going for you and just the will to do it. If you stick with what you're doing, I don't care what place you're working in, as the Quran says, work ye in your places. And the results are sure to manifest. It won't be guesswork. Seeds and soil, whatever efforts you're doing, Miss Sandy is a reverend, a bona fide reverend, what she's doing in her place, everything that you are doing, from the youngest of you all the way up to the eldest of you, just keep doing what you're doing and produce. If you don't produce, you have no life form. You have no life force. You're not, and you don't have any ideation in your seed. It's just like spitting out that seed I talked about earlier, the husk, the hull of it. So don't be a hull, be an idea. And that idea will eventually manifest. Thank you very much as I greet you in the greetings of peace that obligate each and every one of us to see how fast I'm talking. It obligates each and every one of us to keep the peace. Salam alaikum. Now, for the YouTube audience, I'm going to have to postpone your Q&A session. We'll have that separate. You can either email it to me, but I'd like to have a separate session, open session like this, just for questions and answers pertaining to what I taught on today. That could happen as early as Tuesday. So forgive me for not being able to open up and for bearing with us, but I'm pretty sure you got a lot out of what we had to say today. Thank you very much. Salam alaikum.
Walaikum assalam. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Okay.
Salam alaikum.